What is the Laker plan right now? Are they still trying to wait out George and draft Lonzo and try and get the cap space cleared for LeBron at some point? What is their plan?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I mean, I think yesterday was a really big deal just because they cleared out, like, the contract for Timofey Mozgov, right? And they still have some work to do because, I mean, remember last year when they signed Mozgov and Luol Deng? And it was like, I remember it was like in the first 24 hours of free agency, I think one of them was really early. I think Mozgov was first off the board. And one of the contract was 4 years, 64. And I had like this one GM hit me because it was the first sticker shock contract last year, right? Remember that was the first one. Whoa, I guess this is what people are getting now, right? Now that the salary cap spiked. And one GM was like, did the Lakers say to Mozgov's agent, like, 4 for 16 and, like, they just got it wrong? Like, did they mean, like, 4 years for 16 total? And then, the agent came back, yeah, great, so 16 a year. like, that's how bad that contract was, like, in terms of value. And it just kind of set things in motion, but very soon afterwards they signed Luol Deng to a contract that's even worse, 4 years, 72. And so those two contracts were I think they were the final nail in the coffin for, Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak in the eyes of their sister, because they were just so unjustifiable. And they really locked the Lakers into this place where they don't have any way of getting better unless they could find someone who would take them. And you know what it took to get rid of one of the contracts, and the Mozgov contract is the worst of the two contracts. It took trading the guy who was the number 2 overall pick in the draft 2 years ago. And I know D'Angelo wasn't, didn't pop in his first couple of years, right? He wasn't, but I don't think he had gotten to bust status. I think he had a year last year that you saw some potential. You're like, okay, if you put them in the right spots and you figure out how to use them the right way, he matured a lot last year. He was still in the growth process where you say, this is absolutely selling low on him. But that's what it took to get rid of the Mozgov contract. And if they're able to turn that salary cap space into 2 superstar players, it'll be worth it. If they're not, well, that's the risk they're taking now. But I feel more confident in Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson of being able to do that than I do in Jim Buss and Mitch Kupchak.
Well, I mean, when it all comes down to it, though, you think, okay, let's slot Lonzo Ball in there second overall and then use the cap space. But then there are reports that the number 2 overall pick might be used to lure Paul George right here, right now, and start the process right now. Did the Lakers have to sacrifice one for the other, do you think?
I don't think so. I think look, that's the leverage point right now, okay, is that Indiana wants the number 2 pick because, quite frankly, if you're Indiana, Paul George has put you in a very uncomfortable position where you really have no leverage. I mean, because this is now public and because, he clearly wants to go to the Lakers, any team that's trading for him is going to do it as a rental. And that's really hard to give up good young players and picks and assets and all, it's really hard to justify doing that for a guy who is going to leave, right? And not to mention how uncomfortable it would be for that guy in your town all year, the questions all year long, well, you're just going to the Lakers. So it almost made it so that Indiana could only deal with the Lakers, and that's why they were talking yesterday. From what I understand, Indy just, they never moved off wanting that 2 pick. And the two construction I had heard was one was the 2 pick and D'Angelo, and then there was another one that was D'Angelo and Brandon Ingram. So it was, there's 2 assets the Lakers don't want to move: the number 2 pick or Brandon, and Indy's still asking for them for Paul George. And I think sometimes it's about winning the press conference, right? We talk about it all the time. If you're Indy and you've been backed into this position by the player, and he wants to go to L.A., you can't then trade him to the place that he wants to go and have a deal that seems like you lost.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you liked some of that, get some more of that on the Rich Eisen Show app. Follow all the information you see right here on the Rich Eisen Show.